But I think the development of full artificial intelligence will spell the end of the human race.
It's a flying object, and we don't know what it is. I would hope somebody's checking it out.
It was a rocket or whatever, but it could be fast, opposite direction. It was too fast to be an airplane.
I'm glad the Pentagon is looking at this, because if it poses a threat, I want them on top of it.
Well, the craft generates its own gravitational field.
You said there's lights in the sky?
The internet has become the command center for criminals and terrorists.
911, what's your emergency? I need help, please help!
Aliens won't let it happen. You know, that's what we're instructed to say.
Roswell, Area 51. Alien kept deep under the ground.
Self-serving. You're here for a reason. You're listening to Troubled Minds Radio.
Broadcasting live from a secret bunker just off the extraterrestrial highway. Somewhere in the desert sands outside of Las Vegas. From somewhere in space-time, loosely labeled Generation X on planet Earth. And asking questions of you in earnest. Into the digital darkness.
Good evening and welcome to Troubled Minds Radio. I'm your host, Michael Strange, and hello to all of you who may also have troubled minds. What's going on, guys? It is Thursday night, which is one of the nights we get together and talk about all the things we're not allowed to talk about. We do it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at 7 p.m. Pacific. What are those things, you may wonder? Aliens, conspiracy, the paranormal, the government, academia, the 24-hour news cycle, propaganda, and the general feeling that we live in the upside down. Doing it again. Got all kinds of wild stuff to talk about tonight because that is exactly what we do. Wild stuff by dark of night. It's become the mantra of this show. Tonight, I've got lizard folk on my mind. One of the most basic conspiracy theories, the out there, the David Icke's, the oh no, things are getting weird conspiracies is about lizard people, right? You guys have heard this, the lizard aliens, they've taken over the world, that old 1980s TV series called V for Victory, right? Remember all the rest of that stuff? Yeah, right? It's one of those like kind of basic, everybody's heard of this conspiracy, and it typically makes everybody roll their eyes. What if I told you, my friends, if it's maybe possible that there's some evolutionary concept, very much like we talked about the fish people with Derek, the Night Stalker, shout out Derek out there, whereby dinosaurs actually had evolved instead of people, right? Hey, why not? As always, right? We're doing the thing and trying to keep up with your thoughts, and the ideas here are usually hot and heavy because that's just the way we do the things. Let's see, is this fine? Okay, all right, that's good. All right, it's going through. All right, so they're just checking the fringe. Sound check, 1 2 1 2. All right, sounds good. Okay, so here's the thing, right? Per usual, we're gonna get to the actual lizard folk tonight, right? In the old days, let's go down old school Dungeons and Dragons for a second. There used to be this thing called, in the original Dungeons and Dragons game, the lizard men, right? The lizard men is what they were called. But then, things change, and, there's probably lizard women too. And, it's just awkward to, it's a lizard's patriarchy, if you know what I'm saying. And so they changed the name of them to the lizard folk. All right. So we're going to just say that that's what we're talking about tonight, the lizard folk. Okay. And whatever that means, if it's aliens, if it's, some sort of actual evolutionary off branch or whatever's going on with this, or let's say speculative zoology even, which is where my mind is at tonight, because why not? Like I always say, if we're not talking about this wild stuff, who the hell's gonna? And that's that. So as usual, right, we're doing it to include you. This is the most interactive radio show in the known multiverse. And what that means is we're streaming in lots of places, reading your chat, trying to keep up and do all the rest of the stuff, meaning this specifically, that we're streaming on Rockfin, YouTube, DLive, Twitter, and Twitch, and we're broadcasting live on the Fringe FM. And so I'm reading the chat in all those places, trying to keep up with your ideas and incorporate them into the show as we go. As you know, as you've noticed, I'm a little rambly, usually, because this is completely unscripted. It's basically a loose outline. We base it on some articles, and the concepts here are nonlinear and open-ended, meaning we can take this pretty much anywhere we want to as a conversation. And to do that, you just chat, type in the chat. I'm reading the chat in all the places, or you can give me a call. We got open phone lines and an open Discord. You can hop in and just tell me what you think about this stuff. And this stuff in particular is speculative zoology. That's right, those lizard folk. Or this is the wild part about this. Actually, I'll get to it in a sec. If you want to be part of the show, 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. You can click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. That's the official website of Troubled Minds. You can find all the stuff there, the social media, the merch stores there, everything you need to know. The podcast, it's all there. It's all there. Troubledminds.org, okay? Including the phone number, all the rest of that stuff. Okay. Now, here's the thing. We're also broadcasting live on the Fringe FM. Like I say, hey, that's digital radio. That's good stuff. And what it means is that we're not just on the Fringe.fm website. We're on the Fringe app. We're on Paranormal Radio, that app. We're on the TalkStream Live app. We're all over the place. We're all over the damn internet, right? You can't stop us. You can only hope to contain us. And part of that magic is because of the Fringe FM. And so the Fringe, as you know, is a independent radio station and a digital radio station. And what that means is we're allowed to say what we want. We're allowed to think what we want. And have you noticed it's not super corporate? It's not like, oh, hey, by the way, you can't talk about lizard people, Mike. No, hell no. I'm going to talk about lizard people because that's just what I feel like talking about tonight. Okay. But there's a beauty in that, right? And being able to think about what you want to think about and talk about what you want to talk about with no meddling and nobody telling you this or that, or a corporate sponsor saying, stop, Mike, this is just too much. You're way off the rails every night. It's driving us crazy, Mike. We're going to pull the corporate sponsorship. Well, there is no corporate sponsorship because the Fringe FM is entirely listener funded. All right. What that means is the Fringe needs your help. It's an ongoing thing because the bills need to be paid. All right. Fringe.fm/donations is one way you can help. Again, it's the holiday season. If you can spare $5, even $5 helps. There you go. The other way is to join the Fringe Discord. You can go to fringe.fm/chat. That will give you a direct invite to the Discord over there. I'm watching the Discord. And if you pop in there, I will say hello to you. And the final way is to download the Fringe app. And you can find that, of course, for free on your favorite app stores. That's going to be, where's that going to be? That's going to be Android or Apple or, whatever phone you're using out there, whatever app stores your go-to. It's free. Did I mention it's free? It's hard to beat free. But like I said, free means the bills need to be paid sometime. Fringe.fm/donations. Appreciate that very much. Do download the Fringe app. It is the easiest way to listen to Troubled Minds. Just smash the play button at 7 p.m. Pacific, Monday through Thursday. You get me, you get us, you get these conversations. And tonight you would get, for instance, the lizard folk. The lizard people. Speculative zoology. All right. Now, here's the wild thing, right? There's this thing called the Squamozoic. All right. And what it is, it's an ancient era in humanity. Well, before humanity, pre-humanity. Ancient era of the dinosaur situation. 65 million years ago, 66 million, something like that, in change. We don't know. But basically, we don't know exactly, but somewhere in that range. We're told scientifically there's the KT barrier and all the rest. You guys know. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. But so regarding that, they say that what if that asteroid that hit the Earth and wiped the dinosaurs, what if it didn't? What if it didn't? What would that actually look like on the Earth today? Instead of, us being, bipedal and the two eyes and the two arms and, the big mouth, I'm speaking for myself here. Well, what would it look like if instead the dinosaurs and the reptiles as such, the big reptiles, were basically allowed to continue the evolutionary track they were on, would they have actually, maybe, just possibly, evolved to be similar to us in, let's say, brain power and maybe stature, except we wouldn't be, squishy, like the meat suits, like we always call it. It would be more like a scaly suit, a cold-blooded, scaly type of suit, right? And here's the thing, the wild thing about this. Now, if I talk about it, or David Icke talks about this, we're nuts, right? We're absolutely nuts. Like, these guys talking about lizard people, what the hell's going on? But if you're an actual notable zoologist and you talk about this possibility, well, they call it speculative zoology. And then you get to name your own fictional dinosaur era called the Squamozoic. All right? We're going to get to that tonight. And of course, the lizard folk. And we're going to start here. There's an article that came out on The Conversation. As always, the links, all the things I'm talking about are in the description down below. And you can find them, of course, on the podcast feed or on YouTube or all the rest of that. And please check that out. I would recommend it. And you can read up on this stuff and, get fill in the blanks, the stuff I leave out, because, you can't cover everything. But check this out. Straight from theconversation.com. 66 million years ago, an asteroid hit the Earth with the force of 10 billion atomic bombs and changed the course of evolution. The skies darkened and plants stopped photosynthesizing. The plants died, then the animals that fed on them. The food chain collapsed. Over 90% of all species vanished. When the dust settled, all dinosaurs, except a handful of birds, had gone extinct. And here we go. But this catastrophic event made human evolution possible. The surviving mammals flourished, including little proto-primates that would evolve into us. You adorable little proto-primate out there. I see you. Imagine the asteroid had missed, though. And this is what we're talking, okay? And dinosaurs actually survived. Picture highly evolved raptors planting their flag on the moon. Dinosaur scientists discovering relativity, or discussing a hypothetical world in which, incredibly, possibly, mammals took over the Earth. How horrifying, right? This might sound like bad science fiction, straight from the article here, but it gets at some deep philosophical questions about evolution. Is humanity just here by chance, or is the evolution of intelligent tool users inevitable? And we could add that to the wrinkles of the questions tonight. The philosophical questions about evolution, meaning that let's say that the asteroid didn't hit 66 million years ago. This thing didn't go down. Dinosaurs are still flourishing. The climate is still changing. See what I did there. And basically they evolve just like they had been evolving. But instead of growing larger and larger, they started very much like humans. They kind of, these proto-primates, they started small and they started growing a little bit bigger, but not too big, right? Except for my mouth. That's really big, but I digress there. My point is that if they were allowed to evolve without interruption, is it inevitable that we would have, I don't know, like slee stacks from Land of the Lost stomping around, right? Something like that. I don't know. And that's the question, right? That's the question here regarding all of this. Is it possible? Number one, just again, speculative zoology, all right? That's the first thing here. Is it possible regarding evolution that instead of people, without that asteroid impact in the Chicxulub crater 66 million years ago, we have instead reptilians? What would you call them? Lizard folk, right? Like I said when we started. I don't know. Things get weird, right? When you start thinking like that. And would they have evolved the smarts that we have? And maybe they'd have been better for it. Maybe the Earth would have been better for it. Who really knows, right? And so, as usual, that's what's on my mind tonight. All these questions and more. And, of course, let's throw the idea of the, what you call it, right? Well, the situation of, what would you say? Lizard people. And maybe, just maybe, they still exist today because, there's people still seeing these things out there, right? There's sightings all the time. And so, quote, sightings all the time, whatever that means. And again, like I said, that's a little drink in the maybe juice. But as you know me, I'm unafraid of speculating these things that just creep people out. It's okay. I'm unafraid. Nobody tells me what to think and nobody tells me what to say. And that's that, right? So there you go. There's the questions. There's a whole bunch of this. We're going to talk about the Squamozoic humanoids. And that just means that there's a particular time when instead of the mammals diverging because of this KT impact event, of course, the asteroid, the Chicxulub impact, all the rest of that stuff, just say it never happened. Let's spin ourselves off into the multiverse, into another reality where none of that stuff actually happened. And does that mean, well, we've got lizards walking around instead of us? And I love the idea. So let's read a little bit more of this straight from the article. As usual, those are the questions if you want to be part of the discussion tonight. 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. You can click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. I'll put you on the show. Easy as that. Here you go. So here, imagine the asteroid had missed, okay? Blah, blah, blah. So brains, tools, language, and big social groups make us the planet's dominant species. There are 8 billion Homo sapiens over 7 continents. By weight, there are more humans than all wild animals. And we've modified half of Earth's land to feed ourselves. You could argue creatures like humans were bound to evolve. And in the 1980s, paleontologist Dale Russell proposed a thought experiment in which a carnivorous dinosaur evolved into an intelligent tool user. This dinosauroid was big-brained with opposable thumbs and walked upright. And there you go. There you go. And that's kind of gets us to where we need to be because it's complicated. As usual, right? These ideas, these concepts are complicated. And this one, we may have to spin off into the multiverse to kind of really do the thing. And that's the deal, right? Just kind of get the ideas flowing here. And I don't know. So a few more questions to kind of wrinkle in here. Do you believe that this was possible or maybe did happen somewhere along the line in evolutionary aspects and any aspect here on, let's say, this Earth, or let's say, what do they do in the Marvel universe? They name it Earth 77648 or something. So let's just call it Earth 77648 because that's a big long number that I'll assuredly forget, and then I'll just call it something else along the line. But so Earth 77638, let's say that Earth has, well, lizard folk. I don't know. It's creepy, right? It's creepy. But then we're going to get into some other stuff, of course, because there have been sightings. We've got a list of some sightings that we'll talk about tonight about actual lizards, lizard people. And again, is it all fiction? Is it somewhere in between? I don't know. Pretty good stuff. Let's see. What else do we? All right. Let's get back to this article. Do a little bit more of this, and then we'll get us wrapped at the bottom of the hour. But that's what's on my mind tonight. It's weird, right? Like we've heard this. It is the granddaddy of all conspiracies. In that there's a lizard cabal of lizard people, running the whole thing. And that, they're very much like V, that, again, the show from the 80s with like the people that had like you peel their face off and they had like lizards underneath. Remember that? Remember that show? Anybody old enough to remember that show? If you haven't seen the reruns of that show, I definitely recommend it. It was one of those like kind of cringy good, you're like, why am I watching this? This is so good. This is so good. All right. In any case, so back to this. So this dinosauroid was big-brained with opposable thumbs and walked upright. This is the one that evolved instead of us, all right? Straight from the article. It's not impossible, but it's unlikely, they say. The biology of an animal constrains the direction of its evolution. Your starting point limits your endpoints. And again, this is evolutionarily speaking, I don't know. What would you call it? Theory, because, a lot of people don't believe this either. I don't know. I don't have a dog in that fight. I'm not really into that, arguing for just argument's sake. I'm more into thinking about things and as concepts and ideas and just doing the thing, and that's what we do. So there we go. A lot to think about, a lot to talk about. We can get to Dungeons and Dragons and the lizard folk if you want to do that. We can get to these other sightings regarding the lizard man of Lee County, which again is another a sighting that happened not that long ago, really. It's in our lifetime, unless you're super young, then hey, God bless you. Get it. Then what else do we got? Let's see. Hold on. There's a whole bunch of other stuff here. Okay, so here's the thing. Now back to that idea of speculative zoology. All right, like I said, if I talk about it, I'm just a weirdo. All right. But if you're a scientist and you talk about this, you're, brilliant because you've got the fancy names and you make up your own dinosaur era called the Squamozoic. All right. And so check this out. This is pretty interesting. If you look at this, there's an actual thing done by Darren Naish, Naish, and he speculated exactly this specific thing, including making up the term. What is the term? Squamozoic. Squamozoic. I think I'm even saying it wrong. All right. So there's that. But here we go. He basically says this, right? Instead of, again, so herds of millions of herbivores, and they're very, very scientific terms in here. He's like, doing the genus and the, I don't know, whatever the hell they're called. But there's a lot of really big words. I'm not going to try and read these. I'll just make a fool of myself. But he basically saying that, like, instead of the mammals with that Chicxulub impact 66 million years ago, this is the theory. All right, is that just possibly it could have happened. And would it have been lizards instead of us? And he says, basically, after all this goes down, right, across North America and Eurasia, diverse venomous, helodermatids and big geckos, now we're talking big geckos, skulk around at night. Big terrestrial and scansorial Anoles, whatever that is, dominate the American tropics, and big bizarre iguanians are spread across the islands of the Pacific. And so basically we're saying that, look, if the actual asteroid impact stuff didn't happen, all right, that maybe this is what would have went down, and sort of speculating on that. And he named it the Squamozoic. All right. Like I said, if you're a scientist and you're notable and, people have heard of you and you've written a paper or two, hey, you're a genius, a Squamozoic, you get to make up your own stuff. If you're me, if you're us, you're just, well, whatever they want to call us, right? However they want to malign us. But I don't know. It's super fascinating as hell because, we've all heard the David Icke stuff. And David Icke, again, back to that original conspiracy theory, the OG conspiracy that everybody's heard of, right? Well, in this case, I've read some things that David Icke in particular, and I'm not an expert. I haven't read a bunch of his stuff. I haven't watched a lot of his lectures, all the rest of this. It's basically become sort of this meme, right? Where when you talk about lizard people, and you remember you've seen the pictures of like the queen, and she's got her eyes pulled back, and she's got the reptile skin underneath and the reptile eyes and stuff. It's kind of become that meme. This David Icke, he's a nut job because, and I'm not saying that, I'm saying other people are saying that because he's like, hey, lizard people, right? But I've also read, interestingly, that David Icke has also said that it was not necessarily literal. It was more metaphorical in that, how we talk about these elites being like a predator class type of thing. So it was talking more in metaphor than in specific like lizard people. But I don't know. Like I said, it's not up to me. Like I said, I live here in this reality. So do you. It's up to us, this conversation, because it is our conversation. And so what do you think? What do you think regarding, one, the idea of this speculative zoology, this Squamozoic, all right? Meaning that we're, instead of people and the meat suits, there are, well, I don't know, walking iguanas, all right? That have scientifically done the things that we've done. Similar, right? Who knows? Maybe they'd be better. Maybe they'd be smarter. Remember we talked about how the insect brain last week, or maybe early this week, how it's very specialized. Maybe if let's say, reptile brain was allowed to actually evolve, maybe they would be ahead of us, right? In the same evolutionary time span. It's hard to say. Or maybe, like they were saying in the paper there, that maybe it was impossible. I don't know. But it does fascinate the hell out of me to consider this. And one, all right, so if it's possible, and these guys, again, the speculative zoology here, they say that if it's possible, right, somewhere out in the universe, if it can happen, it has happened, all right? And it may be who knows where, but maybe right here. So what do you think regarding all this stuff? Again, and then the idea that we have these V for victory type aliens walking around, but they might not be aliens, right? I think, again, worth mentioning, the aliens are extraterrestrials. In this case, we might be talking about ultra-terrestrials. So I don't know. Per usual, love all the concepts. Love how I do love to mix my peas and carrots because, well, they're better that way. They just taste better. And you put a little gravy on there, and everything's good. And you got some maybe juice dinner or whatever. Any case, there you go. What are your thoughts here? Is this too far off the rails for you, or are we right in the wheelhouse of troubled minds? And that's what we're doing tonight. What do you know about lizard people? Not just the lizard folk. What about this Squamozoic humanoid? What about the speculative zoology, and how come the scientists get to speculate wildly and they're smart, and then we do it and we're dumb? Isn't that weird? That's kind of weird. Love to hear your thoughts at 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. This is Troubled Minds. I'm Michael Strange. Don't go anywhere. More speculative zoology, the Squamozoic humanoids, lizard people, the lizard folk, and some recent sightings you'll never believe when we return. Be right back. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange, and we're streaming on Rockfin, YouTube, DLive, Twitter, and Twitch, and we're broadcasting live on the Fringe FM. Tonight, we're talking about reptilians. Yeah, that's right, I said it. Reptilians. Isn't it strange that, well, like spiders, like all these other creepy crawly things, reptiles in particular have sort of that revulsion effect on people entirely. So it makes you wonder, what would the world look like if that Chicxulub impact 66 million years ago in the Yucatan Peninsula actually hadn't happened? Would we have an evolutionary off-branch of, let's say, humanity that wasn't really humanity? It was more lizard-like or something to that effect. And that's what's going on tonight. And we've all heard of David Icke and his, again, you know, is he being literal about these aliens, these ultra-terrestrials, these reptiles? Or is he not? I don't know. I've heard both, and I'm not exactly sure. What's up, One Life Man? I see you in the chat. How are you? And so I don't know. I mean, that's what's going on tonight. That's what's on my mind, and it's complicated, per usual, right? Normally, you can just pull something up and talk about these things and just consider concepts, and you know, in linear fashion, and that's fine. But this one's weird because there's a lot of ways to look at this. So is it evolution we're talking? Is this, an ultra-terrestrial situation where it's like that proverbial breakaway civilization? Or is it just all nonsense and none of this stuff exists at all? As usual, right? Open to all the possibilities and all the ideas here. But I don't know. Like I said, I'm not too familiar with David Icke myself. So maybe somebody out there is actually more familiar with that. You can speak to that specifically. Maybe some of the ideas, if they're actually metaphors or if they're actually really kind of pointing toward these reptilians or whatever the hell they're called. I don't know. So there we go. That's what's on my mind tonight. And let's get into this. So there's more here. There's a ton of this stuff, right? If you look at this TV Tropes, right, which is a fantastic website. If you guys don't know, tvtropes.org, check it out. It's got all the best stuff because, you know, it's like peeling it from TV, right? So TV Tropes, they what they're calling this is formerly sapient species. And so in some cases, right, they're saying that these things maybe evolved and were a thing maybe millions of years ago, and then maybe they got dumb again, and who knows? I don't know. So there's a lot of ways to look at this. There's one, the formerly sapient species, or again, in sort of a multiverse situation, if there's a Earth 876432, right, I'm pretty sure I got that right from the first one I made up. If that's the case, well, maybe we do have actual reptilian aliens or ultra-terrestrials, not even aliens. It's hard not to say aliens, right, when you think reptilians, but I think it's probably more likely that if any of this was true at all, it would be something from here. It would be ultra-terrestrials as they're known. So, I don't know. It is complicated, and these concepts are fantastic. And like I said, isn't it wild that speculative zoology, number one, is science, unless you're a troubled mind, and then and then it's conspiracy theory, and well, then you get to make up your own terms like Squamozoic humanoids. And so, well, you know, hey, science, just trust the science. Don't worry, guys, everything's going to be fine. This is fine. This is fine. So, okay, so again, has anybody? Let's throw the other additional questions out there. So, number one, what do you believe regarding this reptilian stuff? You think there's any truth to it whatsoever in that there are reptilian humanoids actually currently on this earth? All right. Number one question. That's probably the most pertinent and important here because, well, again, we're talking bizarre stuff by dark and night. It's how we do. But then the next thing is, what about this, again, speculative zoology? What happens on another version of Earth? Is it actually maybe even possible for something like the Slee Stack? You guys remember the Slee Stack from Land of the Lost? There's another one. And so if you look at, again, go back to the TV tropes and these ideas of these lizard entities, they go back for years. I mean, these ideas of these underground entities or wherever they're hiding have been around forever. People writing books about this stuff. I mean, the Land of the Lost, you remember that original TV series? I saw the reruns when I was a youngster in the 80s. And I was not old enough to catch the first run of those ones because they're really old. But they were, right, the first sort of stop motion dinosaur stuff. So it's just weird. This whole thing's super weird, but Land of the Lost was fantastic if you guys never saw that. V is another one with the aliens and then, you know, peel the skin off and the rest. I don't know. So as usual, right, just looking here from you and what your take is on this. Do you think there's any relevance to today? And it could be the speculative zoology. It could be the evolutionary stuff. It could be David Icke. It could be any of this. There's a lot of ways to look at this. It could be Dungeons and Dragons or the TV tropes or the V the series or Land of the Lost and the Slee Stack. We'll get to the Slee Stack in a little while as well because they're fascinating as hell. We got Derek in Massachusetts. You ready to go, my friend? Let me know if you want to wait till bottom of the hour or whatever. That's cool too. It's all fine. I saw you pop in there. So, but all good. Just doing the thing and hanging out. What's up, Kelly? I see you there in the chat. How are you tonight? But that's what we're doing, right? Yo, what's up? Derek in Massachusetts.
You ready for me now? Sorry.
No, I'm ready. I'm ready if you're ready, brother.
I'm ready.
Derek in Massachusetts. Welcome to Troubled Minds, the Night Stalker. So lizards, man, this stuff's weird, right? Again, speculative zoology. I love the terms. This Squamozoic humanoids. Well, is this real? Is this not? What do we make of this, my man?
First, I wish they had some kind of 90s style animated show where it's just aquatic humanoid and lizard humanoid and some kind of chimp species and praying mantis kind of form this superhero team because I love the different kind of humanoids. It's always fun stuff. But yeah, this could go a ton of different directions. There's the ancient mythology where there seems to be some type of reptilian presence in a lot of different folklore, but also all the major religions have some type of serpent or snake or lizard humanoid, and it goes pretty deep. I don't want to take all the takes for everyone else though, so I'll stick to this one thing called the Lacerda files, which I'm not sure when it's from, honestly. It feels like it's a 90s thing. I'm not sure how old it is. It's kind of hard to find now online, but I have it favorited, and randomly I listen to it all the time when I'm trying to fall asleep. I've heard it honestly probably 25 times. But it's this 3-hour interview supposedly with this reptilian alien or reptilian humanoid. But it's all digital. They run it through kind of old-fashioned AI. So there's a robot voice, a female robot voice, and then the male interviewer. And it's pretty weird. Some of it's kind of fun and it touches on some cool stuff, but some of it's kind of a generation old, and I can kind of see that maybe it's not real. So I don't really treat it that serious, but in it, she talks about Lacerda, who's the reptilian. She talks about how these reptilians, are the real species of this planet. They've been around for much, much longer than us, and they've been an advanced civilization when we were still monkeys in caves and stuff, is what you were saying. But so there was an advanced species of, again, I don't necessarily believe this. This is kind of fun to listen to. There's an advanced species of lizard humanoids, reptilians on the planet with the dinosaurs. They weren't the dinosaurs, but around the same time. And then that was not an actual asteroid. That was a war between two other aliens, races that came from space. So these reptilians that she they evolved naturally over hundreds of millions of years from Earth lizards to where they're at, and then these other reptilians, like the Draco reptilians or whatever, she says from another bubble in the foam of the omniverse, comes in, and then like another humanoid species from like somewhere else in our universe came in and battled up in the atmosphere and destroyed everything. So these advanced reptilians had to like go inside the Earth, but they've been around for a very, very long time. And the idea is that we were genetically upgraded, so they evolved naturally. They're supposed to be here, and they formed as a super advanced civilization. And then like what she calls like the Elohim or the Anunnaki or whatever came down, and they started meddling with chimps and primates. So the Elohim propagandized humanity to fear these reptilians. So that's why they're always kind of the villain in all these religions, is because and that's kind of probably why we fear them naturally, is because not only is there another humanoid that's off in the woods that's different than us, that would be just naturally, instinctively scary to us, but also our alien gods told us that they were bad because they didn't want us to like mingle with them or whatever. And I don't know, it's pretty crazy. And that just like, my favorite part is where she describes the underground bases. So these things that they all live now deep underground. There's no hollow earth like with its own sun, but they have these. They're still advanced. They were able to like go. It's like an Atlantis story where they were able to keep their technology and go inside the planet rather than in the ocean. And they have these giant heat lamps and stuff. I don't know. I'm rambling, but what do you think about that so far?
It's very reminiscent of not just the reptilian stuff. It seems like there's a lot of that, like we've talked about the ultra-terrestrials. Like it seems like it's a parallel to a lot of things here, and it could be all kinds of stuff. Like we've talked about those primordial nature spirits. We've talked about maybe the Anunnaki and the Igigi actually went underground at some point, and we got these like hybrids, maybe the Titans or something that are down there, like Tartarus. Or I mean, there's a whole lot to this that kind of tracks and fits with a ton of mythology. And again, as you know, we talk about this stuff in the sense of, well, maybe there's a reason for these mythological stories, and it's not just simply telling tall tales by the campfire, right? To keep people in line, right? The original surveillance state was Zeus is watching you, right? Like maybe not, exactly. Maybe not, but I don't know. And so maybe there's a reason why there's these themes, these recurring themes of humanity, and like you're describing, maybe with these reptilians throughout time. I think it's possible. I think it's actually possible, right? And then going out on a limb here, because there's so much we don't know about what's beneath our feet. Like we always talk about, like when we did the aquatic race show, the aquatic humanoids. Like we barely explored the ocean at all. And so if there are underwater caves, or something to that effect, like there's no chance we'd find these things. There's just no damn chance, right? I mean, maybe few hundred years from now, something, maybe when our submarines become amazing, but we just aren't there yet. But then underground is even more unexplored, because there's rivers and oceans and all kinds of just absolutely crazy stuff down there that we would not really know. I mean, so it fits Agartha, it fits all kinds of stuff. And so, I'm digging it. I have heard that story, the Lacerda. Is that what it's called? Lacerta, right?
The Lacerda files. I'll post a video in the chat. I can't find it when I search on YouTube, but I have it in my like videos, whatever, so I can go to it. But it's it's impossible to find like organically. But it's kind of funky. There's cool parts that kind of give me the chills when she's talking about the different bases and how like she won't tell us where. There's like one in North America, one blah blah blah. But if you're going to come across these things, she says that you'll be going down this cave, or you go down some kind of entrance, and then if you find the rocks on the side of the caves becoming more smooth, like unnaturally smooth, and then you feel like a air coming from deep in the cave, you're most likely going to be in one of these entrances. But then if the walls start to become this like smooth metal, then you're definitely at one of these bases. And if you see that at this point, they already know you're there and you're not coming back, basically. And if you see our reptilian symbol, which she never like said what that was in the interview, then it's one of us. But if you don't see that symbol, or you see another symbol, then you're like really screwed, because there's other things that are here too. There's like, and it was cool. She was talking about, so we're like we being Lacerda, like we're very old. We've been here. We evolved naturally over hundreds of millions of years, and we kind of messed with our evolution a little bit towards the end once we became advanced, kind of the same way humanity is right now with hybrids and all kind of any kind of mad scientist stuff we do right now. But humanity was tinkered with by an outside presence, like our ancient alien stories and stuff. But it kind of makes sense that whatever the ancient presence here would be might be inside the Earth. That peopling or creating civilization on the outer crust of a planet might not be the smartest idea. That if there is space inside the planet, that might be where all civilization goes all over the cosmos. So that it's just inside. And there's just, like you said, there's so many inner Earth stories kind of about that. And Lacerda was talking about, I just want to keep it to Lacerda just because I don't want to steal everyone else's reptile takes for later. But like,
sure, no
she was
problem.
talking about, she was talking about how they can shapeshift. Again, I'm not sure how old this is. It seemed old to me based on the terms that they're using, but they can shapeshift based on like kind of messing with our minds. Like they're not actually shapeshifting. There's no masks. There's no like, they're not transforming, but they have some type of psychic power that allows them to mess with our mind. Like smaller groups the better, but if you photograph them, then they'll appear normal. So that doesn't necessarily jive with the Obama's an alien reptile type of stuff, because we would see that if he's on camera. But she was also talking about, there's like other reptilian races. Like there's the things that come from space, which makes sense. So if they're a humanoid species seems to be like what evolution wants. So you're talking about the multiverse, or in a scenario where they didn't get wiped out, we might not even be here to begin with. Or, you know what I mean? But like, I think it's interesting just as far as the David Icke stuff. I don't know how literal he takes it. I feel like sometimes it is literal, and then depending on who he's in front of and how serious he wants to be taken, then he's going to say, no, we're just making a metaphor. But the same with this, like where he's calling himself Jesus and everything. Like, no, I just meant we're all like God. But at one point he's sitting there being like, no, I'm actually the reincarnated version of Jesus. You know? So I feel like he kind of picks and chooses a little bit.
Yeah.
But
that's a tough one if we're trying to say that reptiles and Jesus in the same sentence. You know what I mean? I mean, it's bad enough just trying to say like the reptilians and talk about it without getting laughed off the face of the radio scene. But then you throw Jesus in there and we're just like, oh dear God, what just happened?
Yeah, I know. But I think the pop culture is interesting. Like, they do call the elite blue bloods. So like, is that, and they've done that for a long time. So is that based on the idea that they're reptilians, or is that just because you want to describe elites as being cold-blooded, like character-wise? And I think it's cool that Mario Brothers uses the trope, like the royal elite that live underground. They use these like passages, these pipes to get around. They're like reptilian royalty. I think it's interesting.
Bowser.
But I don't really Bowser. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I don't necessarily believe it, honestly. I think it's fun. I think it's possible, but like, I don't necessarily believe it, you know. And there's just like little parts where Lacerda's talking, and some of it's really cool. Some of it is like, she was talking about how like at one point she's asked, why don't we find fossils of this stuff? If there was an advanced, like if in a million years somebody comes to Earth, they're most likely going to see bones of humans around there at some point. Why haven't we found bones of these advanced reptiles? And she's like, no, they do. But the sheer archaeologists they want to see dinosaurs, so they turn the fossils into dinosaurs. But if you look at like the iguanodon, those iguanodon hands are our hands, and like the iguanodon is like closest to our skeleton, but they've just made it look like a dinosaur because they want to have they want to recreate a dinosaur and stuff, you know, which is just little things that are interesting, but just weird things where she's like, our babies are born in shells, but like we still, over a period of time, we've grown breasts because it's just like that's what evolution wants, to feed our children with breasts. And like we have like it made it weirdly sexual, like talking about her anatomy and stuff. And it's just like little weird parts where it's just the reptilian stuff is it's possible, and then it kind of goes off the rails a little bit with they're drinking our blood and they're working for the elites. And I don't know, that's kind of that. I think it's fun, but if you're wondering, do I believe it? I'm not sure if I do.
Yeah. That's it is a tough pill to swallow. So real quick then, before you go, what do you know about David Icke? So is his take there that he's famous for, that's become that meme? Is it, as far as you know? Again, you're not the definitive expert here. I'm just putting you on the spot. Yeah. Is it a metaphor, or is he literally saying that the Queen of England was the reptile?
I don't know. Again, I've heard him discuss it in literal terms for sure, and then I've also heard him talk about it in metaphorical terms for sure. But I think like when he's like trying to talk about like medicine, he's gonna say, "Oh no, my reptilian stuff is just like a metaphor for how the elites are up against, like they're not actually human metaphorically." But like when he's in a lecture talking about esoterica and stuff, he's gonna point to all these mythologies that talk about reptiles, and these elites believe they're descended from these gods, and blah 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 blah. He's gonna do his whole reptilian trope, and just the most important part is that he's like maybe like top 3 most famous conspiracy theorists of all time, and the people interpret his stuff as being literal. And so it doesn't matter if he's saying it's a metaphor. So it's like one of the first conspiracies you find is, oh yeah, they're all reptilian shapeshifters running the planet and stuff. And it's just, yeah, maybe, possibly. I think Game of Thrones is cool because the Targaryens believe they're descended from these dragons, and it's like they're all incestual and trying to keep this dragon blood in the family, and that's obviously a reptilian overlord parable. But I don't know. It's fun, but I'm just not sure how much stock is in it. But like,
yeah, that's something I got to do. I got to look into David Icke a little bit more to find out, because I'm not sure. Like I said, I've read both. Where it's metaphorical and in other words literal. So I don't know. I'm not exactly sure. But go ahead.
I personally, I know, like, you're the host, so you can't talk bad about people. But like, I'm not a huge David Icke fan. I mean, like, I'm not gonna go out of my way to defend David Icke. Honestly, I feel like he says what he wants to say, and he just like, I don't know. I'm not gotta take him with a massive grain of salt. So most of the time, I feel like he is talking about it literally. I don't know. The elements are all possible, and I don't rule anything out, and I think it's really fun, and it does hit the same way with the aquatic humanoids. It is everywhere. There are so many reptilians all over mythology, like all over the Bible, all over every religion, and just the idea of a hollow earth, I absolutely love. Like, it's one of my favorite things. And it's like when I'm driving around, like just kind of zoning out, thinking about stuff, or looking around in my surroundings, I'm just like, yeah, there could be something under our feet right now, and we would have no idea. Like, we would have no clue. They could just put something. This could be 3 openings here, and they just put a facility over it. We would never, ever, ever know. And just underneath us could be this whole porous environment with just God knows what down there. So that just does tickle my maybe juice fancy. So I do like the idea of it. But if like a gun to my head, I'm gonna say that I'm not sure if they actually exist.
Yeah, you're like, no, okay, I'll back off this one. Don't shoot.
Yeah. But I think it's really fun, and I want to hear everybody's takes on it and stuff too, for sure. But great show, Mike. I just wanted to get that call out of the way early so I can smash it in the aisles right now.
Go smash the thing, man. I appreciate it very much. Thanks for listening. Thanks for the call. Always a pleasure. You're the best, brother.
Later, brother. And Merry Christmas, everybody, if I don't hear from you. But
and you. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas. And there you go. So Derek the Night Stalker, good friend of mine, good friend of the show. You know him, you love him. He's got a YouTube channel, links in the description down below. Give him a follow. He's literally a STOCKER Night Stalker. He's going to go smash the aisles, like he said. He's actually stalking overnight in a grocery store. So that's the adorable name where that comes from. It's literal, right? So anyway, look, great takes there from Derek, and I think this is, again, when you look at this, there's a lot of ways to look at this, right? Mythologically, like he said, I mean, we could look at the Naga, we could look at let's say pop culture, and we could look at maybe Land of the Lost and the Slee Stack. We could look at what David Icke, and like you said, and I think he's right. If you're talking about probably the top 3 most famous conspiracy theorists of all time, of modern times anyway, I think you've got to say Alex Jones and David Icke, and I'm not sure who number 3 might be, but you see that he's definitely way up there. Everybody's heard about this reptilian conspiracy. And like I said, like I don't want to poo-poo on any of these ideas, because I don't know. I just don't know. And I know it seems outlandish to even consider the concept to some people. But beyond that, that's what we do. We're supposed to consider all the possibilities here. That's really what this show's about. So I don't want to say, nah, and just run you off, because you never know, right? Maybe there's some evidence out there that hasn't been, let's say, presented, or hasn't been, let's say, cataloged, right? Or who knows? It's complicated. Per usual, it's complicated. There you go. Lacerda Files interview. Oh yeah, I remember that. Okay. So yeah, he dropped that in the Discord in case you guys hadn't seen it. I think you got it in the YouTube chat as well. I'll bump that over to Rockfin so you guys can check that out if you want to. But yeah, so I don't know. Like always, I don't like to just crap on ideas outright, because I think that's exactly part of the problem with just censorship. And I know there's this big argument, this big fight over the truth of the matter, Mike. Truth reigns. And yeah, but I mean, like again, if you're let's say a UFO experiencer, and you have a situation where maybe you encountered reptilians or something like this, right? Maybe it was a dream, maybe it wasn't, maybe it was a thing. And I don't know. That's what I'm saying. I just don't like calling people liars. And there are some firsthand accounts, which we'll get to tonight. Actually, by the way, there's some actual, not just let's say pop culture stuff, but there's some actual like full on accounts of this. The lizard man of Lee County. We're going to get to that. Some actual sightings from the late 80s. So I mean, there's some modern stuff here that tracks. And sure, maybe it's that stuff is BS. It's hard to say, right? But I'm not the arbiter of any truth. I'm just talking about amazing things and amazing possibilities. But it's less important what I think. It's more important what you think. What's going on with this? What is happening with this situation and of reptilians and humanoids? And again, so like I said, isn't it hilarious that if you're a zoologist and you can be taken seriously talking about this speculative Earth 6478b or whatever, and you get to make up your own thing with this speculative zoology and call it the Squamozoic humanoids, right? Because you're a scientist, right? But if we do it, we're quacks. It's just it's an interesting thing to point out. It's I don't know. You tell me. What about these reptilians? Again, is it evolutionary? Is it not real? Is it somewhere in between? Ultra-terrestrials, extraterrestrials? You tell me. I have no idea. Is it not real at all? I don't know. 702-957-1037. I also want to know if you guys know anything about David Icke. Just your take on whether you think he believes that stuff is real or it's a metaphorical thing. There we go. More Troubled Minds on the way. Speculative zoology and the Squamozoic humanoids, because we're just making up our own words now. Be right back. Don't go anywhere.
You're listening to Troubled Minds. Join us as we discuss an upside-down world that nobody seems to notice.
We are talking about the alien abduction phenomenon.
The aliens are looking through your eyes and they're accessing your optic nerve. I'm doing fantastic. And through that optic nerve, they're transferring to your brain. People are random images as they traverse neurons in your brain.
All right, so maybe,
and they also feel them planting or receiving memories or ideas or images.
Broadcasting live from a secret bunker just off the extraterrestrial highway. Somewhere in the desert sands outside of Las Vegas. From somewhere in space-time, loosely labeled Generation X on planet Earth. And asking questions of you in earnest into the digital darkness.
Good evening and welcome to Troubled Minds Radio. I'm your host, Michael Strange, and hello to all of you who may also have troubled minds. What's going on, guys? Got another doozy for you tonight. You've heard of this one. This is the big bad daddy of all conspiracies, at least one of them anyway. One of the most famous, one of the most infamous. We're talking about reptilians, okay? But of course, like I said, it's interesting because, if you listen to David Icke, he says a lot of things about reptiles and reptilian humanoids and this, that, the other thing. Well, if you take this other stuff and you go to some actual scientists, they're doing what's known as this speculative zoology thing. And they're going back to this fictitious period they invented just after the Chicxulub impact 66 million years ago that supposedly killed all the dinosaurs. And I say supposedly because probably there's a lot of details we just don't have yet. So that's what I mean. I think, my trust to science is let's see what comes tomorrow, right? Surely we know what we know today, but what new evidence comes tomorrow? I think it's interesting to look at it and see how this stuff develops. All of us have been to school, some of us have been to college, and there's some things that you learned, right, many years ago that are just no longer true. So as always, things are developing as we learn more information, as we find out what's going on in the world around us with evidence, right? But not just evidence, again, with firsthand accounts. And this is part of why we do this show like this way, right? I just don't want to poo-poo on anything because you just never know. You never know what people out there have seen. Because if you seen something that's so unbelievable, it's difficult to really say it and not have the world come down on you and tell you you're nuts, right? And I just don't like doing that. I like to keep my mind open about all the possibilities and consider all the concepts. And in this case, we're talking about, again, so if we're scientists, it's speculative zoology. If we're conspiracy theorists, then, well, we're just quacks and it's reptilians, right? So I don't know. You tell me, what do you believe regarding this? And David Icke, again, is one, again, like Derek said, fantastic call from Derek in Massachusetts. He had it right. David Icke's one of the most top 3 famous conspiracy theorists of the modern times, right? So is he talking in literal terms? Is he talking metaphorical terms when he talks about these reptiles or whatnot? But then also, what about this speculative zoology, this sort of evolutionary branch that maybe might have happened had we not been hit by that meteor or whatever it was, the comet 66 million years ago that supposedly wiped the dinosaurs, again, created these proto-mammal primates, which we then evolved from, again, if you trust the science. So I don't know. Like, as usual, I don't know, because you know why? I wasn't there, right? I mean, that's an obvious statement, but I wasn't there. So it's one of those things where I'm like, I don't know. As usual, no answers from me, just more questions than anything. And love to hear your thoughts here. What is going on with this idea of these reptilians? Is it, well, metaphorical or is it real? Love to hear what you have to say about it and your thoughts. 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. And another question, too, to add to this is if they're real, right? Again, because you get the yes or no, and then you get the branch of questions. Okay, if you say no, okay, so do you think it's possible? If they're real, where do they come from? Where do they live now? Are they still here? This type of stuff. There's a lot of things to think about. So just love to hear your thoughts on it. 702-957-1037. Clicking over to the phones real quick, and let's go to, looks like Kelly in Colorado. What's up, my friend? You're on Troubled Minds. How are you tonight? And go right ahead. Thanks for being patient with me.
Good evening, Mike. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear. What's up, my man?
Not much. Just intrigued with this story tonight.
Right on. Go right ahead with your thoughts.
All right. Well, so I've been down a lot of these rabbit holes for years, right? So doing a lot of research. And this rabbit hole was, with the whole reptilian or draconian theories. That's where I kind of ran into David Icke many years ago, because how I found him was actually through, I was looking at, some other stuff that was through Africa, and it was Credo Mutwa. I don't know if you ever heard of of him. He's a African doctor that's, or more like like what you would probably say, what they would call a witch doctor, but name is Credo Mutwa. And David Icke actually went down to Africa and did a lot of interviews with him, because he wanted to know a lot about the history of some of their that area in Africa where he was from. And he got a lot of information. David Icke actually got a lot of information from him about all different types of stories. And, Frito Mutwa was actually, he's sitting there and he's wearing like this garb, and he's got these metal, looks like very old metal trinkets, that's all around him. And he's explaining them what their meaning of them was. And there was one story that Frito Mutwa actually kind of talked about. He was saying that there was two reptilian brothers way back in a long time ago. These stories are passed down, verbally through those, through these tribes. But one story is that they had a story. There was two reptilian brothers that brought moon. I guess there was never a moon in the sky, and they brought the moon here. When they did, it caused a lot of disturbances on the planet and stuff. Where I think they had floods and all that stuff. There was another story kind of adding to the flood story. I think that's how I actually kind of found Frito Mutwa, and then with David Icke as well. But a lot of those stories are pretty interesting, man. You go back and you find a lot of those stuff in statues and stuff too, as well. Because I'm always into the Middle East. All the history throughout there, in all countries. It doesn't matter, Iraq, Turkey, Iran, all those. What's interesting is you find it's in the Ubad period, right? And it was in Sumeria. You have these statues. I kind of sent some over there in Discord, so you can check out. But there it shows like a reptilian, like they're like real slender looking. There's statues of them, and one of them, the famous one that I was kind of actually, this is what kind of led me to it, was the positioning of it. It was holding like a baby, and it's suckling the mother's breast, and that whole picture or that frame like that goes, it follows back in time, because most famous paintings is like Jesus. Or not Jesus, but Mary when Jesus was born, and how she's holding them. But in some of the Renaissance paintings, it doesn't show them, nursing on the breast. But all these other ones, throughout history, they like that position of statues. They all represent that. But it goes way back, and like from the first time, like the first symbols of that. Anyway, it was in the Ubad period in Sumeria. But also other different statues you find is like the one that we were talking about. I don't know, a few shows ago. It was about the anomalies. These statues were found in Sierra Leone, about 15 meters deep. So it's about 9 feet deep into the ground. They were looking for diamonds when they found these statues, and what they're pretty interesting. A couple of them are. I sent that one as well in Discord where. These guys, they're like human bodies, but they got reptilian heads, or vice versa. Like, it looks like one of them's almost shape-shifting. It's got the human face, but it's got like the reptilian skin over the face of it. Pretty interesting, Another one they found as another like a reptilian type statue was in Japan, and in that one it's even like a he looks like he's wearing a judo gi almost, or a karate gi. And he's, it's the position of kneeling down on your knees to like, your hands on your upper thighs. It's almost like a resting position. These are all old. I mean, even if you go back to Sumerian, we were talking like 4,000 years, and 6,000 years ago. This is 4,000 BC. That a lot of them. And then you go to South America, Kukulkan, the lizard, the flying lizard, or the serpent, the plume serpent god,
Yeah. Quetzalcoatl. Quetzalcoatl.
Yeah, Quetzalcoatl's another one that that you find where these lizards. So what's interesting too, there's another man. His name was George Warren Sheffett. And this was in 1933. He believed that there was a city underground, like under LA City, and he wanted to dig tunnels to try to find this and he believed that there was lizard people that lived down underneath there. And this is in 33. He tried to get the city to help him pay, like drill holes down there. I mean, I think he did try to do it in a couple spots, but they couldn't find nothing, and the city didn't want to spend any money on his, his hunches or his theories. But yeah, that's one of them too. Is pretty interesting. Another story that I find interesting for me is the Emerald Tablets of Thoth in Tablet 8. It's called the Keys of Mystery. And in there, he talks about how these things were in, because he's Thoth and he's from, Atlantis. And he talks about these things that are shadows. They move like shadows even in Atlantis, and they've, he said that you could trap them in in their bodies, but, like the body or the shape, or I guess they would kill somebody and take the shape of that person, the leader or the, of a village or whatever. But he explains it, like you can trap them in a certain voice or vibration. And he explains that, they're serpent headed when the veil is lifted. So it's like in a frequency, I guess you can trap these things within their bodies or whatever the form they're in. And you can lift the veil to see what they really actually look like. So that's another one. But what's interesting too is like when they talk about, like in some of these Native American stories, like in the southern parts of United States, and even in the jungles in Mexico, like the Aztecs, they talk about these lizard people that would come out, and they would help them. There was something that happened on the surface of the planet, and they went and lived underground for a while with these people. There's some stories like that. And also, what's interesting to me, I don't know if it's humans. They never really said if it was humans or not, but you have those cave systems down in like Derinkuyu, where they said there were thousands of people. Even if who taught them how to, to actually build that within that soft material? The interesting part about Derinkuyu, because it's like 20 levels deep, but how it's the material that it's made out of, it's easy collapsible. So the construction of it is where they put these pillars are all the way up, and they had cattle in there, there was only one way you can open those doors, one way, in and out. What's interesting too is that, 20 levels deep, and why would they be going down there for, so long? But you also have different cave systems as well. They're saying, I've been trying to find pictures of anything, something like that, but they're claiming from even all the way from like, Ireland all the way down into like the Middle East. There's whole cave systems that, that they claim is that they connect all the way down there, even like they're like Europe, in England, like on the island out there, if that's the case, who knows? You can have all kinds of stuff, but yeah, man, this story is pretty interesting too.
It's pretty wild
in any way.
Yeah. Question for you real quick. So regarding David Icke, so a lot of that information that he talks about came from that Credo Mutual, right? That's who we're talking about. So basically it traces back to him. And so was David Icke actually literally saying lizard people, or was it metaphorical, or was it both? Do you know?
No, I'm thinking David Icke is saying for real, like the queen, she's a shapeshifter. There's a lady who claims that he actually interviewed her. There's an interview with the lady that he has done, and she is the one that's coming out and explaining how exactly what they look like when they shapeshift, because she was part of the royal family over in England, So, yeah, there's an interview with him talking to a lady, if you could look for that one. But yeah, it's not metaphorically. He's really saying that these people are reptilian shapeshifters. And that's the thing. I mean, if you go back, that's what makes connections for me, is where I went going back all the way to the Emerald Tablets. If these things are, there's claims that, they're fake or whatever, they never found them, but that's not the case. If you ever read these things, and, you're not supposed to read them once or twice, but 1,000 times, like it says. because you can get things that it's almost rhythmic when you read it. But from what I get from, tablet 8, that, these things are, but it claims that they're not, that claim that he's saying in the Emerald tablets is they're from a different vibration. Like they're from a different dimension, they're like a hyper species that are like, that can come and go, so it's not like, or they need, and what's interesting too is for them to cross over to like take the blood or the body of humans or whatever they're shape-shifting into, is they need a blood, so, I did a real quick search on even the word draconian, right? So I want to know the etymology of it, the original part of where they're getting this. And, it kind of, it goes to say that it was from Athens, this dictator or this guy named Draco that, was in 62 BC. He was the one who made these laws, but the third one, it's almost like a code of laws made by Draco that measures were so severe that they were said to be written in letters of blood. So I don't know, man. It's almost, that's why David Icke, when I was following him, that whole blood offering, like I've read different books, like, besides the Emerald Tablets, we're all, and even if you look going into South America, looking at the Aztecs or Mayans, but they were saying that they were doing this blood offering to the gods, their Kukulkan, the feathered serpent. So, that to me was the pointing, almost the direction of where I need to go, where, another place to look. Because, some of this stuff is not, like, it almost seems to me like David Icke was even, got a hold of the Emerald Tablets because of the reason. And I don't know, man, like for me, and my story, I don't know if I should, speak about it again, but, if somebody else hasn't heard about it, but when I was serving in the military, I mean, for me, because I'm a ufologist guy anyway, and all different types of, weird creatures, not only that thinking that we're human beings are the only species on this planet. That's absurd because they've got, there's many videos of even like people that were going underground, like had to, take these vehicles with cameras, and they had to check sewer systems, and they're capturing these things that look like small lizard, I don't know what they are. The one that's interesting to me was it's like a human, like I wouldn't say a human, but like a bipedal species, could be only maybe 2 feet tall, but it had a long reptilian tail, like a long lizard tail. It was skinny looking, but it, kind of was like moving away from that camera, and that little, whatever buggy they were using to go forward of it, this thing kind of like peeked out from the corner. And then once it stopped, he kind of like even looked out further. And then when it moved, they jerked that little, whatever, that little toy, whatever, with the camera forward, this thing took off, and you could see the tail behind it. And these are old videos. These are not ones, these are ones before, you're talking, people were talking that, you could try to change that stuff. Whoever was back then, you can actually tell when someone is messing with it because, they didn't actually really know how to do it. It was all real blocky and stuff, you could tell.
Yeah, old CGI is trash. It's so easy. It just stands out super. What's interesting too? So how I notice fake stuff now, and I'm not the arbiter of truth, but the thing to me now, if it seems too slick, it's fake. That's how I see it. Meaning that like you can put these fake UFOs on these like perfect parabolas that go through the sky on these video editors, and if like the movement is just too perfectly fluid, I'm like, nope. nope. But what do I know? So tell that story real quick. We have like about 2.5 minutes. If you want to tell it, if you don't want to tell it, it's okay. But yeah, tell that story. I think it's important for people to hear.
Yeah, for me, okay. I was serving in the military, right? And this happened with me. I'll just tell the quick story. But like for me, we were having a meeting, right? With I made a certain rank, a higher rank, and it was a senior chief. She was given, like the whole spiel, the breakdown of like, making rank, higher rank, separating, like friends from your stuff, just the whole spiel about, making rank. But it's like a 2-day thing. So after the first day, everything was going. Everybody's all relaxed. You're kind of more like kicking your shoes off. You're really you kind of like take your rank and you tuck it in your shirt. Everybody's kind of loose. But there was a time she was speaking and she's kind of like looking at me, and then she's looking away, and she looked at me again, and I don't know. I'm not a believer in anything, but like I'm not a religious person, but when they say I swear to God, that's a term I would use, because from what I've seen when I've seen her eyes and how they blink sideways, and it was not just like the whole eyelid, it was just like the pupil part where it looked like a little mouth, like two. It wasn't like how you close your eyelids, going up and down, say like north and south. These went east and west, just the eyelid part, the pupil part, and that shit freaked me out. I'm sorry, I didn't. But
you're okay. You're
okay. That really
okay.
freaked me out. Yeah, that really freaked me out. And I thought in my first, it kind of, but then in my mind, I was like, all right, I need to calm down because I wanted to see it again. So I was kind of, if it was real when I seen. So I was trying to do like telepathy. I was trying to like do it again. I want to see it again. I'm not scared, but when it happened, she realized it happened, and she looked away real fast, like looked at the ground, and then like walked away from me, and it was giving her speech still, and then she kind of avoided me from there. Another time was when with music going, but it was on the East Coast, and it was just exactly that thing. But so these things are, I don't know if they're too malevolent, but if they're around, they're still serving with this. They're probably police department. They're all, in all factions of all government and, higher, whatever. They're around. That's what I believe. David Icke's theory, I'm kind of with that.
I appreciate it, man. Thanks for the call. Thanks for telling the story. As always, a pleasure. Go Raiders. We got a chance, don't we?
Yeah. The nation.
Have a great night, man. I appreciate it. We're out of time. You're the best. That's Kelly in Colorado. He's actually the very first caller of Troubled Minds, the very first, years and years and years ago. He's been with us for years. 702-957-1037. Lizard people or nah? Be right back. Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange, and let me kill this echo. It's killing me. There we go. That's better. All right. I'm your host, Michael Strange. We're streaming on Rockfin, YouTube, DLive, Twitter, and Twitch. We're broadcasting live on the Fringe FM. Tonight, we're taking your phone calls as we discuss this idea of the lizard people, right? And again, like I said, it is kind of cute and cheeky when you look at, academics that are zoologists. They can do speculative zoology. They can make up terms like the Squamozoic humanoids, which, is basically considering what evolution might look like if we never had that dinosaur impact of 66 million years ago. Would the actual mammals have taken over, or would it still be some sort of reptilian hominid that may or may not have been as smart as us, or smarter? Hard to say. And that's the thing, right? As always, me, I'm not here. There's no truth here, at least from me. Like I said, the truth comes from the consensus of whatever reality is anymore. And I'm not so sure it's as easy as that. And that's why we talk about it in this format. Take all the calls. Amazing stuff from Kelly. Thank you for telling that story. Like I said, as you know, if you guys have seen something weird, it takes a certain amount of brass, right, cojones, to tell a story like that. With all these people listening, right? It's like, you're going to catch some crap, and some people are going to ridicule you, and this type of the other thing, and that's not what we do here. That's against that. But my point is, like, if you've seen something weird, and you say it, people are going to just write you off as some sort of quack. And I don't like that. Like I said, I'd rather talk to you guys and hear what you've seen and what you believe and what you know and personal experiences than hear any celebrity or anybody with their own big channel somewhere in the UFO community or something. I don't care. Like we know what they're saying. We can go watch their YouTube channels, but this show's about talking to you guys. So what do you think regarding all this lizard people stuff? David Icke, real, metaphorical, credo mutua, which again, I never really did a deep dive on that. We should probably do that at some point as well. But I mean, is this, like I said, speculative zoology, if you're an academic, is cool. If you're us, we're just knuckleheads. I mean, right? Is that fair? I don't think so. I think it's completely unfair, but we're going to do it anyway because I'm unafraid, and we're going to keep considering all the possibilities. Love to hear your thoughts on this. 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. We'll put you on the show. Just like this, by the way. Let's go to 8 Block in Oklahoma. What's up? I see you there, my friend. What's going on tonight? I hope you're feeling better. You're on Troubled Minds. Go right ahead.
I am. Thank you so much. And I'm grateful for feeling better, for sure. So I have so much. I actually did write notes down a little bit.
Sure,
but first, I want to talk about the potential DNA. We have that hidden DNA they call junk DNA. They figured out what some of it is, but not all of it. We are, on more occasions than you would think, born with tails that just simply get chopped off at the end of the day, after we're born. They consider it part of, it's just like an extended skeleton, an extended spine, and so it's basically a tail. When I was a kid, I went to the fair often, and they had back then what they called freak shows, and I don't want to offend anybody, everybody's different, but I was just fascinated with the freak shows. They had people with abnormalities, right? And there was a guy, I don't know if they called him the lizard man or what, but he had scales, and supposedly it was a skin abnormality or a genetic abnormality. But I asked him if I could touch his scales, and he got a big smile. He's like, yeah, sure. So I walked up and literally touched his scales, and they were scales. They looked like snake scales, lizard scales. And so with the genetic abnormalities that I've seen related to kind of scaling and stuff like that, it's usually oddly distributed. There isn't really a good pattern to it or whatever. And this guy, he literally looked like he had snake scales, which was pretty interesting when I was a kid. Another thing that is quite interesting related to this is that if you look at the idea of Kundalini and the snake spiraling around the spine as a metaphor for the Kundalini energy rising, what if that comes from an ancient DNA connection, potentially, that we have with maybe an evolutionary branch of the lizards or that type of being? And if it does, then if we connect the Kundalini, and they did in Egypt and a lot of other sources, with the snake and with sort of the scaly creature, if that's connected in any way, what if it's sort of our whole brain waking up, because we have that? I know it's not literally connected to the reptile, but we have the reptilian part of the brain. And what if somehow it's kind of connected to that? And when we have that experience and the Kundalini rises, that energy opens up the whole part of the brain. in respect to the reptilian part as well, and other bits, that we maybe or perhaps keep closed off. So that's an interesting connection. Another possibility, I know that Kelly brought up all the ancient reptile sculptures and stuff like that, and the potential reptile people. They could have been dinosaurs. Not dinosaurs. They could have been dragons, what they called dragons. And what if they had high technology and they could fly? Maybe they were the inventors of the Vimanas in India, and maybe other people around the world translated that into dragons, flying reptilians. And maybe we did kill a lot of them off and try to hunt them down and stuff like that as well. And that, the typical kind of dragon image is just sort of a translation.
Yeah, just real quick. So on that, they say the same thing happened with like the woolly mammoth, right? So like they were super abundant, and then they were super rare because they were hunted to basically extinction by people, right? Like again, the hunter gatherers chasing the herds around, this type of stuff. So imagine it, like you just take that same concept, hunted to extinction, and just span it over 1 million years. And this is where some of those stories possibly come from. I don't know, just kind of speculating, saying that, maybe this stuff is real, that, the Beowulf and, some of these just ancient stories about these monsters. I mean, who knows? Who really knows, right? Mm-hmm. Like when did the actual last dinosaur perish? And that's the thing. So is it that 66 million years ago? And we're just talking dinosaurs. We're not even talking like bizarre stuff, right? I mean, we are, but we're not in that. In my thing, my point I'm making is that if we just don't know. So if we survived those what are they called, proto hominids, survived and became us, then is it possible that maybe some proto dinosaurs or dinosaurs at the time actually evolved into something else? They say they're birds now, or this, that, the other thing. But what if for 60 million years or whatever, there was a small population of these things that maybe were dragon-like? I mean, I think possibly. I don't know. I mean, how would you survive that? Well, who knows? Like we did, right? I mean, technically we did. Right. So I don't know. Right. It's complicated, I think, and worthy of thought for sure. What else you got? Go ahead.
Absolutely. One of the things with a witness, I saw a pterodactyl. So I don't think they're all extinct technically. And that's, I know I've told that story before, but I think that some of them, of course, could have survived. There are so many different places, and there are eyewitnesses to some. There are a lot of eyewitnesses to pterodactyls, actually. And then we have the Loch Ness monster and the other famous ones. I can't remember. But yeah, I do think that some of them could have survived. But, we could also be connected in that way. One of the things I was going to bring up with the Kundalini thing is that was it Kelly, I guess, that was mentioning the blood, being, or the ingestion of blood being connected to a race of people connected to the reptilians, right?
Yeah, I think that there's some connections there. There's like they say DNA connections. There's like Anunnaki connections. I mean, there's a ton of different ways to look at this, and so yeah, for sure.
If that is a thing, if the idea of quote unquote eating blood is a life source. It's a life. It's what keeps us alive. And if you connect that to the Kundalini, that is a life source as well, chi, or whatever it is that is supposed to, spiral up our spine and open up to that position. What I referenced earlier with the Kundalini rising, it could actually be a reference rather than the blood reference. The blood could be a metaphor for life force, because blood is the life force, the physical life force. And so if we have an energetic life force, and that could be connected to the Kundalini rising, and then the snake spiraling up the spine connects it to that. And then you bring in the idea of the sacred egg, of the seed, of the, reptilians lay eggs as opposed to having a womb, which could be connected to an egg or an evolution of an egg. But there are a lot of ancient mythological stories and sacred stories related to the egg and the idea of rebirth, and the idea of the Kundalini is the idea of a rebirth, and that you could connect to a reptilian thing as well. I mean, rabbits for Easter, they don't lay eggs.
What?
They have life.
What? Wait, so we just shot down Santa Claus as being real. I mean, mostly last week, and now you're telling me like rabbits don't actually lay eggs? Oh, APOC, you're breaking my heart here.
But Easter is a metaphor for like a rebirth, right? So that is that is represented by the egg, by the newborn soul, or the new awakening, or whatever. So I just see a deep connection here with the energy, the egg, the reptilian connection, the reptilian part of the brain, the Kundalini rising. They use it as they use the snake coiling up the whatever you call it for the medical profession. You know what it's called. What is it called? The
Asclepius, or what's it called? Something like that. I don't know. I do know yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure exactly what it's called. Something like that. But yeah, there's also, interestingly, the rebirth cycle of the Ouroboros is that the snake eating his tail, right? I mean, that's also part of this. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, if you go back into history and look at some of this stuff, I think there are reasons for these things. And is it just like, primeval, us being scared of slimy things? Maybe. But I mean, reptiles aren't slimy, are they? But it's a misconception.
I like
they're very dry.
Right, exactly. They live in the deserts. I mean, my God. But I mean, if you want to take it to the underground, that could have been the mythological race that that went underground, to survive or whatever. And if you follow the stories, there are stories of the UFOs coming up out of the hollow earth or whatever. And if they were possibly from another planet or sourced elsewhere, or had a high evolutionary development before we came along, or before we were evolved, then they could, be under there with their spaceships and stuff. And who knows, that could be the source of a lot of our UFOs as well.
Gets weird.
Oh, and David Icke.
David Icke.
Yeah.
So is it metaphorical, or is he actually saying that the Queen of England was a reptile?
I think he's saying both, because he's very, very specifically talked about, the eyes changing, like Kelly was talking about. He's pointed out different videos where he thinks the eyes have changed, and they look more reptilian versus human, and he thinks that they have like cloaking mechanisms or something like that, which I don't know. It's possible. Until I see it, I'm not gonna lock into anything. But I did see a man with scales. So, and I touched them.
So at least that much is real. And use the vestigial tails and all the rest of this. It's all like this stuff. That stuff is real. That stuff is real. Yeah, I don't know.
I'm sorry, just real quick. We do have evolutionary. When we're born, there are a lot of very strange things that come out of our of our evolutionary process that don't seem to be related to human evolution. And that's like the tails and a lot of other things. So I wonder sometimes if that is more like a cosmic DNA source, or the reason that we're born as human beings is because we are in a human womb, and in this kind of human existence. And if you look into the studies and research on water and developing different looking life forms microscopically in water from nothing, our source for the pattern of life could actually be sourced via light and via information through light. And you can get into a lot of other roads going in that direction. But I just wanted to pull it up real quick and bring that out.
Sure, definitely. Amazing stuff as always.
I'm done. Sorry.
You're good. Fantastic. Epoch here, good friend of mine, good friend of the show. You know, you love her. She's got a podcast. She's got all kinds of stuff. The TikTok. She's got a Twitter account, prolific Twitterer. Please give her a follow. Links in the description. Says follow Epoch here. You're amazing. Thanks for the call. Thanks for hanging in and giving us amazing takes here. And just real quick too, I want to point out that this article about what if the dinosaurs hadn't gone extinct. It's written by somebody named Nicholas Longridge from University of Bath, and that's the United Kingdom. And it is a completely open source article. You can republish it on your websites if you guys have him out there or whatever. You got to mention the guy and who wrote it and all the rest of the stuff. So just doing that because people do good work. It's definitely like APOC and everybody else here. It's you got to mention it. You got to my opinion, you got to say, hey, look, the people doing good work out there. Let's cite them and say that this is where this information came from. There's no reason to burgle ideas and say, I magically came up with this in a dream one night. Anyway, 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link, troubleminds.org. We got a few minutes left. We're still talking about reptilians. Yeah, right. And so there's a lot of ways. And in this, again, from this conversation, what if the dinosaurs hadn't gone extinct? What if our world and why our world might look very different? And they're talking about this evolutionary concept of no meteor that wiped the dinosaurs. Would evolution have brought, let's say, that reptile into a bipedal thinking like us, except instead of the meat suit mammal, it's the meat suit scales and reptile stuff. I mean, who knows, right? And so this is what I mean. So they say it's scientific thought, but when we do it, we're just knuckleheads and conspiracy theorists. I think it's an interesting concept to notice the difference. There's not much difference. 702-957-1037. Let's go to, it looks like Mary Ality, I think is how we say this. Let's do it. First time caller, I believe. Thanks for giving us your take. You're on Troubled Minds. Go right ahead. How are you tonight?
I'm doing okay. This is a really personal topic for me. I don't even know where to start, but you just mentioned the dinosaurs a lot, and one of the things I want to add to that while it's still lingering is that in my experience with this being, I actually have a photo that I didn't realize was a photo until I looked at it later, but they actually have like the feet of a T-Rex is the best way I could describe them. It's really crazy sounding. I feel nervous even saying anything at all because this is such an out there kind of thing. But I guess what makes it so strange for me is there was no background for me in this. I wasn't like a movie watcher. I wasn't into all the, Trekkie movies or like any of that stuff. So, for the most part, there wasn't anything like stuck in my head that I was building this off of. I had to actually go and research and do a lot of research actually to find out what happened to me and what was going on. And then as I started digging around, I started finding all these really weird things that started matching up with the things that I was experiencing. And I don't remember her name, the lady that called in. I'm sorry, I'm getting kind of nervous. So I don't know.
I got you.
Winded, but I feel
just it's okay. Catch your breath. I got you. You're here with me, and it's my job to make sure you feel comfortable. Okay, so don't worry. We got time. We're about to get, just to let you know, we're about to get off the radio in about 2.5-3 minutes. So we can hold you over because we get some bonus time. So relax. We have time. I'm not going to run you off. We're going to hear what you have to say, and it's okay. It's all right. Okay, I just want to let you know, you got me. If you lock up and can't get the next thought out, I got you. Okay, go right ahead, my friend.
I'll just try to keep it as condensed as possible because this could string out for it's a really elongated story actually. But as far as the reptilian being goes, experience with the one that I had was one that was in the sky, and it was more of I don't know if you want to call it plasma or whatever it was, but it was not in our physical type form, and it was made of really super almost neon looking type lights or layers. I can't even explain it the way they move. But I took photos, and after I was looking at the photo and I noticed that it was a being in the photo, I started playing around with the photo, and I added some filters and stuff to it because I was seeing things in the photo that I couldn't quite make out. And one of the things I just wanted to say that I don't know if anybody could elaborate or add to with this, but he was wearing he's wearing stuff, and I don't know what all it is, but on his chest area there's what looks like a badge. And when I played around with the filters to try and clear up the image, it ended up looking like a winged serpent badge, and the K14 on the front of it, which I couldn't make any sense of honestly, but digging into that stuff, it just ended up matching up, like I said, with the ancient text and all the research, and it got really creepy. So as far as the topic goes, I'm one of those people I can definitely say that they're real. They're real.
Okay, that's perfect. This is why we do it, because we want to hear what everybody has to say, and you've got a place here for sure. So do you know about David Icke? We got another minute and a half. Is he? So he's being literal, or go ahead, sir.
No, literal. I think also anyone that speaks on this, especially one that's David Icke, he's gotten a lot of media attention. I'm a nobody. I have no credit, no nothing behind me to validate anything that I say. I'm just a regular person. So that doesn't really help on my end with dispersing of information. But to be on such a public level and speak on something like that, and to not be telling the truth, it's just I don't even know what the point of that would be, because you already know that you're going to be attacked with everything under the sun. So it takes a lot to do that. I think, I commend him for what he's done. I think a lot of what he says is surface level. Honestly, it gets much, much deeper than that. But I guess this is breaking through the ice.
Gotcha. Okay.
He's a good way to break through that.
Yeah, definitely. And like I said, we don't talk about it a lot, but I think it's worthy of discussion from time to time because there's a lot here. So we do have to get off the radio. If you got more, you're welcome to stay. I just have to do the thing and say we'll be back, et cetera, so on. Can you hang out for a minute or so?
Sure.
Okay, stay right there. I'm going to put you on mute. This is Mariality, and from YouTube. We'll be right back with her in just a second. And what we're doing is we're talking, we're done. So the bad news is we're done. The good news is, God willing, we got, bonus time. And so if you're listening to us on the Fringe FM, stay tuned for Joe Rupe Lighting the Void. After that, the Jess Rogie Show. If you're listening to us on any other platform, including the podcast feed, stay tuned for some bonus time at Troubled Minds. More with Mariality, and of course your calls as well. As we finish, it goes like this. No answers for me. I don't know. I'm not the arbiter of any truth. But of course, happy holidays, Merry Christmas. Thanks for listening. From our Troubled Minds to yours, have a great night. Okay, let's keep on trucking. We're doing it. We're still doing this. We're talking about the reptilians, right? Like, how deep does the rabbit hole go? Is it literal? Is it metaphorical? What have you seen? What do you know? As always, right, we're here. We're talking to Mariality from YouTube and looking for your calls as well. The point is, like I've always said about this show, it's not about Linda Moulton Howe, Richard Dolan, you know the names, right? Like David Icke. I mean, sure, fine. They're fine. Like I said, but if you want to know what they say, you go to their website or whatever. You listen to their streams, whatever, right? But look, this is our show, and this was always the dream of Troubled Minds, to just get regular people and talk about what you know, what you've seen, what your theories are, etc., so on. So I don't want to hammer that out for too long. Just wanted to talk out the music there. We're here with Mariality on YouTube. Going to get right back to her, and of course, we just bumped over to the Rockfin. So you guys got the link. I'm going to kill it right now on all the other places. So if you're listening on any other feed except for Rockfin, I dropped the Rockfin link in the chat there. It's time for you to head over because, well, we're ending. Here it is. Have a good night. Happy holidays. Or see you on Rockfin. There you go. Let's